Super Rugby Pacific this weekend, folks. MOANA PASIFIKA is finally going to get underway. After sitting out the first two rounds with some COVID cases, it seems like everyone is back in good health now. So that's the first game. Second game is the Drua up against the Rebels. We'll go through the squads quickly, some predictions, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how the games are going to go this weekend. So yeah, like I said, it's long overdue. We still don't have them in kind of front of a home crowd at Mount Smart just yet, with New Zealand kind of still restricting the amount of people that can gather. So you won't see any crowd for this first one for MOANA PASIFIKA's first match, which is a real pity. But, we'll get there in the end. They've picked a side which has got, to be fair, I think it was like 11 guys who are making their Super Rugby debut. And they're up against the Crusaders, so it's probably going to be a long day at the office. Remember, we saw these guys in preseason get beaten by like 50 points by the Chiefs, but they've had a couple of weeks off. I'm not kind of sure what shape they're in. There's going to be rust. So I'm kind of trying to set the expectations a wee bit low. But that being said, the Crusaders have made a heap of changes from their side that played the first 2 weeks anyway. You got Lindenmuth, Tolai, and Kepu in the front. Remember, Kepu is captain for them this season, and he's kind of going to be a key man, not only in his leadership around the field, but also at scrum time. Because anytime you've seen a mismatch in sides, like if you're watching a Tier 2 side play, the likes of the All Blacks or somebody like that, it's usually at set piece that there's a real difference in class. So he's going to need to absolutely hold down the fort. At number 3, McKee and Slade are the locks. Funaki, Motuga, and Stowers are the back row. Stowers is another guy I'm kind of looking for to have a big impact on the side, because he's played Super Rugby before and he's looked the business. Big ball carrier. So he's going to need to be one of the guys to get them over the advantage line. Enari and McClutchie, the 9-10 combo. McClutchie's got a wee bit of pressure to run the show at 10. He's been good at Mighty 10 Cup level, but this is his chance to run a Super Rugby team. Toala and Aumua are the midfielders. Fomai and Fainga'anuku are the wingers, and then William Havili is there at fullback. Not only these guys, but you've also got some experience on the bench. You've got the likes of a Christian Leali'ifano, who's not only had Super Rugby experience, but he's played for the Wallabies, so you got some proper test experience there. You got Jack Lamb, who's kind of in the same boat. He's had tests for Samoa. You've got Jonathan Tambatene, who's moved, to play for MOANA PASIFIKA to hopefully get a bit more game time, which is a bit funny seeing he's starting on the bench. But that's the squad for the first ever MOANA PASIFIKA match. So good luck to these boys. The Crusaders, like I mentioned, I think it's 12 changes from the side that played the Highlanders last week. So they are resting a few guys and still bringing some big guns in. But we'll kind of have to see how they go. Bauer's up from the bench. Mitch Dunshay's getting the game. Quinton Strange has also come in. So there's no Whitelock. There's no Scott Barrett kind of in the squad this week. It is changed. Ethan Blackadder's back in. Tom Christie and Matera are still there. Tahuriarangi gets his Crusaders debut at 9. So there's no Mitch Drummond. Brent Hall's on the bench for this one. Hickey gets a start at 10. Dallas McLeod are in the midfield, and Lester Fainga'anuku moves into the midfield as well. From an All Blacks perspective, I'm kind of keen to see how that guy has a go at 13, because it'd be nice to see the All Blacks at some point have a big block-busting midfielder, but we'll see. George Bridge gets a start after being on the bench last week. Fihaki's there at fullback. Hini Naholo is there on the wing as well, so he's fit and ready to go. And Richie Moong is coming in on the bench, and Cody Taylor is on the bench as well. So it's a much changed Crusaders lineup, but yeah, it's still a pretty strong looking team. A team that can bring on the likes of Cody Taylor and Richie Moong is looking pretty good. The Crusaders are 2-0 this far. They have looked a cut above after 2 games. MOANA PASIFIKA, as I said, 0-0 first game ever. Interestingly, if you look at the stats for the Crusaders, I think they've scored like 9 tries in 2 games. But it's not just their try scoring. You've just got to be aware of every part of the game. And their kicking game, they kicked 31 times last week, which is more than the Highlanders kicked. Like, the Highlanders traditionally have been a team who's quite happy to put boots to ball and let their defense soak up pressure. All that maybe the Highlanders from a few years ago, but the Crusaders, if you get it wrong, they're not just going to punish you with ball and hand, which is the stuff that makes the highlights, but it's their kicking game as well. So the MOANA Pacific guys are going to have to be as good as they can be, and even then it may not still be enough. But anyway, the bookies have got MOANA Pacific getting beaten by 39 points, whereas the Rugby Forecast algorithm, which looks at recent results, has got MOANA Pacifica by 3. So I probably wouldn't take too much notice of that. That algorithm needs more data, I would say. The second game is the Drua and the Rebels. Now, both these sides, to be honest, have been a wee bit disappointing in the first 2 rounds. I'm probably more disappointed with the Rebels than I am the Drua, because the Drua is a new team. You can kind of expect there's going to be those teething issues as these guys get into the swing of taking the step up to playing Super Rugby. The Rebels have admittedly had a changing in the coaching staff, but it's just looked a bit rudderless, and I don't know, it's just been all over the shop. The first round I kind of thought maybe it's partly the weather in Queensland, but then last week at home was brutal. Hey, I mean, I know it's only 2 games in and you can't read too much into it, but you would have expected to see a wee bit more from that Rebels side. Last week at home, they got well beaten by the Force. So the Rebels are none from 2. The Drua are likewise none from 2. So somebody, unless they draw, is going to pick up a first win. It's technically a home game for the Drua, but obviously it's not in Fiji. It's being played on the Sunshine Coast. So hopefully we can get them some games in Fiji at some point soon. But everyone's like, this game's not outsmart, like I mentioned. So it's just one of those things at the current climate. The Drua have made a few changes. Nagusa, the captain, is out this week. They've got a new captain who's up from the bench in Duranlangi. They've still kept Caleb Muntz and Baden Kerr as the kind of 10 and 15 guys. Matawalu is getting a start at 9. It's mostly guys coming up from the bench to start rather than kind of wholesale changes for the Drua. Like Dolakoto and Solo are still on the bench. They was the same as last week. They've also brought in Ravu Taumada on the wing, so it's a kind of good chance for a guy who's been outside the 23 to get a crack. But when I looked at the Drua thus far, the 2 main concerning things just statistically is the turnovers conceded and the line out. These areas are just not showing any kind of consistency, where they're consistently poor is the main thing. So I honestly think that's early season stuff. That's a new team thing. That's to be expected. If they can clean those up, they'll be kind of half the way there to stepping up to the Super Rugby level, I think. But as I said, it's still kind of early days. For the Rebels, they've made a few changes. Obviously, Jordan Uelese is injured, which is brutal because that guy has spent, I swear, like half his career injured. So James Hansen gets a start. Michael Wells is captain. He moves to 6. Tamiti Ioane gets a start. Raymond Nu'u gets a start in the midfield. Carter Gordon's had to start at fullback because Reece Hodge has been suspended after his second yellow card, meaning a red card last week. So yeah, there's certainly some changes for the Rebels. Again, it's not also wholesale, but they have tinkered with things. When I looked at the Rebel stats, I mean, honest to goodness, they couldn't manage a single clean break against the Force last week, and they were at home. And I don't mean to disrespect the Force, because the Force are a side on the improve, but the fact that the Rebels couldn't get a single clean break against these guys, they scored 3 points. I mean, it's not like they were playing the Crusaders. They were playing the Force, a team which they should be, on a par with, being competitive with. They just weren't. That was really, really, really frustrating. So, yeah. The Rebels are 16-point favourites with the algorithm and 14 points with the bookies. So the Rebels, I mean, maybe this is going to be a good boost for them if they can go and get a win, but they better be careful because, like I said, every week the Drua play together is going to be another week with cohesion and another week where these guys are just able to build on what they've started, and they are only just starting. So, yeah, that's the games for Friday. I'll have a look at the Saturday games probably tomorrow once all the squads are announced. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. Crusaders obviously pretty big time favourites against the MOANA Pacifica side in their first match. Likewise, the Rebels are favourites against the Drua albeit not quite as much. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.